Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about functions. So this first video is going to serve as an introduction to functions. So there's a few things we need to know about functions to start with. So a function is something which maps an input into a single output. So you take one number and you'll get one number out. So for example, if you have a function and you run it through the function, you put in 2 and you get out 5. Every time you put in 2, you will always get out 5. There wouldn't be any possibility to get a different output. So talk a bit more about that later. Then there's something called the domain. So the domain is a list of values that you may put into the function. So that's any number which is allowed to put into the function. And then there's also something called the range. And the range is the list of values which will come out from the function. So in the example I just mentioned just now, so I said if you put in 2 and you get out 5, 2 would be part of the domain and 5 would be part of the range. Now, in order to remember which one is which, the word domain ends in. So the domain is what goes in, and the range would therefore be what comes out. So that's one way that you can easily remember which one is which. Now, I said that a function must map one input to one single output. If it doesn't do that, then it's not a function. So this can be illustrated graphically. If I look at this graph I've got here on the left, if I had a value of x, and then my blue line is showing my function, and I've got f of x written here. So if I had a value of x, whatever number I take for x, say I take some number value here, I go up to the blue line, I go across, I would just get one single answer out. So whatever value of x I get, I would just have one value out. You can see if I draw a vertical line, it's only going to intersect with the blue line at one point. So whatever my value of x is indicated by this yellow vertical line here, it's just going to give me one output. So this one single value of x will give me one single output. So that would be a function. If, on the other hand, I look at this graph over on this side, here I've got similar things. So I've got my blue curve here showing my what my equation is, and then I've got this f of x here and x here. Now, if I take a value of x here, and I draw a line here, it's going to intersect this blue curve at 2 points. So my one single value of x which I put in, I could get 2 answers out. I could get this one here, or I could get this one here. So in this case, my one single input x value gives me 2 possible solutions, this one or this one. So this is not a function. So what I've just shown you there is called the vertical line test. If you draw a vertical line on your graph, if it intersects the curve or whatever the curve, the line at more than 1 point, then it's not a function. So here it intersects twice, so it's not a function, whereas here it just intersects one time, it is a function. So in order to be a function, it has to, for one single input, has to give just one single output. That's what I wrote back up here. So it says a function maps an input onto a single output. If it doesn't do that, then it's not a function. So this one here, this is a function because one single x gives you one single answer, whereas in this case, my x gives me 2 answers, this one or this one. So this is not a function, this is a function. Now, next thing we're going to do is talk about function notation. So function notation, you tend to see things that look a bit like this. So let's talk about what this is. So this here is saying that it's a function whose name is h. So h is the name of the function, and then it's something to do with x. So it's written as h in terms of x, and then it's written what the function is here. So what it's saying is you take your value, first of all you subtract 2, and then you do 1 divided by what their answer was. So I could write that out in terms of a function. So I'd say first of all I subtract 2, and then afterwards I do 1 divided by what I had. Okay, and then I'll get my answer here. So that would be my function, would be like that, and this function is called h. So that's what this is telling you here. Then I've got this bit here. So this is expressing what the domain is. Because it's written in terms of x, x is the value which I get in, so this is the domain. If it was written in terms of y, then that would be the output and that would be the range. So this is the domain because it's written in terms of x. This notation here, this like R letter, this means that x can be any real number. All right, so anything which is real. So 1, 2, 3, 4, negative numbers, that would be fine. Irrational numbers, so like the square root of 2 or something, or pi, those would all be acceptable. Okay, we can only don't have not real numbers. So any real number would be acceptable to put in, except for this one. It says x does not equal 2. So x equaling 2 is the only value which isn't allowed. And the reason that wouldn't be allowed is because we first of all do x take away 2. 2 take away 2 would give me 0, and I then would try to do 1 divided by 0, and that would cause me problems. So my domain is basically saying I put in any number whatsoever except for 2. Now 2 would cause trouble because we'd do 1 divided by 0. If you try that with your calculator, it's going to throw an error. You wouldn't like it. All right, so this notation here is explaining we've got a function called h, which is written in terms of x, and then this is what it is. It's 1 divided by x minus 2. Now, this is a slightly different notation, but very similar. So this one is saying that we've got a function which is called f. Again, it's written in terms of x, and this one is 3 multiplied by x. So all we need to do is take our number and multiply it by 3. So for example, if I took the answer, the number 1, and I did 3 times 1, I would get out the number 3. This one is another function. It's a separate function, and this one is called g. So just using the different letters will signify which one is which. So this is called function f. This one is called function g. Again, it's written in terms of x. You can write them in terms of different things. So sometimes you might see s in terms of t, and then you'd get a function, but it would have the letter t in it instead. So this one is x because it's got x written in it here. This one is also x because it's got x written in it here. So this function is called function g. It's different to function x, and this one is 2x and then take away 6. So whatever number you take, you first of all double it, take that answer, and then subtract 6. Now also you might see something like this. This means work out function f with the value of 4. So all that would mean is you take the value of 4 and you put it into function f. So in order to work this out, I'd say, okay, function f is 3 times x, so it's going to be 3 times 4, because I'm using the value of 4. So I just replace the x with 4, so that would therefore give me 12. Similarly, if I look at this one, this means do function g, but also with the value of 4. So I take my 4, and instead of putting it into f, I put it into g, and I just replace the x with 4, and I work this one out. So it's going to be 2 times 4, and then take away 6. 2 times 4 is going to be 8, take away 6 is going to be 2. So that's how I'd work this out. This is what this means. This means use function f, and then use the value 4. It means use function g, use the value 4. Sometimes you might see this. Now this means, first of all, do the inside the brackets first. So it means take function g and put in the value 5, then take the answer and put that into function f. So what I'd do is I'd first of all would work out g of 5, which is going to be, so I put 5 in here, so it's going to be 2 times 5, which is 10, take away that which is 4. And then I would do f of 4, which we already know is 12 because we worked that out earlier. So when you see a function like this, it means first of all do the one which is inside the bracket. So do g of 5, take that answer and put it into f, like that. This one, this is a slightly different notation, but it's a similar idea. So it would, first of all you would do function g of 5, then you take that answer and put it into g again. So it's similar to this answer. I could write this in the same way, but just put the g outside here. So g and then this circle and then g means do function g, then do function g again on the value of 5. So I already know that g of 5 is 4. So then that would be the same as then doing g of 4, which I worked out earlier was 2. So that one would be 2. This one, again, is written in the same notation as this one. But this time it wants to know what function g is of x, and then do function f of x. So here, instead of having a value for a number, what it wants is it's going to have some kind of algebraic notation. So it means, first of all, I do function g, and then I take that whole function and do function f. So what I actually would end up doing is doing g on the whole of, doing f on the whole of function g. So the jump function g was 2x minus 6. Now function f is 3 multiplied by that, so it's going to be 3 multiplied by 2x minus 6. So I can then multiply out my bracket, and that's going to give me 6x minus 18. So here, because it's function f on function g, but with x instead of with a number, it means it wants it in terms of x. It wants an algebraic expression for this, which is called a composite function. So it's function g and function f. First the g, so that's on the right-hand side, and then do f on g. This would be exactly the same way, it's just written in a different notation. So this is similar to this notation. So this one was first do g on 5 and then do f on the answer. This is first do g on x, then do f on the answer. So it would be exactly the same as the one up here. And my answer would end up being exactly the same. So this would also be 6x minus 18.